It's about that time of day again. Welcome back to Nightly Newsletter, boys and girls. Joseph James here. It's Monday evening, October 17th, 2016. Markets are consolidating ahead of tomorrow's session, which is often a leading indicator that we're going to be seeing some fireworks this third week of the month of October. Crude oil is bullish and trying to push through the battle zone ahead of tomorrow's rollover date. E-mini S&P is range bound and trying to finish rotation back to the highs of the range, while both the gold and euro are both bullish, but struggling to push through their measured moves with some big targets waiting overhead tomorrow. I got a great newsletter in store for you guys and gals tonight. Got a plan for tomorrow. We'll check the schedule in a moment. Third week of the month here, it's going to be a big one of learning and earning opportunities here in this newsletter. Before we jump in, though, I do want to remind you the only place to watch the full-length version of this nightly newsletter is here in our blog at sidewaysmarkets.com. If you're watching the video right now on our YouTube channel, not to worry. There's a link in the description of the YouTube video. Follow that link in the YouTube description. Come over here and join me for the full-length version of the nightly newsletter. And while you're here, don't forget to join our mailing list. I'll send you an email every evening when our nightly newsletter goes live. Download those charts below the video, follow that link, and have those charts on your computer ready for tomorrow's trading session. Grab your free pass in the upper right-hand corner. If you're not a member here at School of Trade, you'd like to grab a free pass, grab that free pass in the upper right-hand corner. And don't forget, if you're brand new here to School of Trade and Sideways Markets, we've got a great frequently asked questions page on our blog. Follow that link for the FAQs and learn the who, what, where, when, and why. We are known as the industry standard in trading education on those interwebs. Once again, hope you guys had a great weekend. Boy, oh boy, what a great time to be alive, right? Beautiful weather outside. You got playoff baseball on television. I tell you, if I can't root for my Red Sox, I got to cheer on the Dodgers right now. What a nail biter there with the old Cubbies. I think I might be the only person on the planet right now not rooting for the Cubs, but go Dodgers, go. Bottom line, though, is we get a plan here for tomorrow. We'll see how the rest of that division series plays out the rest of this week here. I don't want to get too excited here. Those Cubs look pretty mean. All right, let's keep going. Tomorrow here, we got, of course, the schedule for tomorrow first, and we'll jump into those charts here. Again, welcome back. Hope you guys had a great weekend out there. Tomorrow's Tuesday, October the 18th. We do have some news coming out tonight from our friends, the Kiwis out of New Zealand. Get the consumer price index at 5:45 p.m. I don't think we're going to get much of a needle movement off of that. Tomorrow we've got 4:30 a.m. We might see a little bit of post-Brexit stuff, the PPI and the CPI tomorrow morning at 4:30 a.m. I don't think we're going to see much response to that either. I would imagine, of course, the big meat and potatoes here are going to be coming tomorrow in the U.S. session. We get the CPI number, we get the housing market index tomorrow, Treasury International Capital, and we get a slew of news coming out tomorrow night from China. So a little bit of news tonight from our friends in New Zealand. I don't expect that to do much here in the overnight session. We've got a little bit of peppering here at 4:30 tomorrow morning if you're trading the London session. And, of course, don't forget tomorrow we get that CPI at 8:30, housing index at 10 a.m. We get the tick flows, the Treasury International Capital at 4 p.m. And then, again, this is going to be most likely the big news of tomorrow will be the GDP, retail sales, and, of course, the industrial production out of China. We'll talk about that tomorrow night in tomorrow night's newsletter. So, really nothing really standing out for tomorrow's session. It is the third week of the month, so we know that Friday is OPEX, but unless you're trading the E-mini, that won't mean much to you. One of the things about currencies, metals, and the energy markets is they're not going to be affected by OPEX too much. So that's later on this week. This should be ringing a bell here right now for all you crude traders out there. The 18th of the month is typically your rollover day on crude oil. Now, as far as today's volume went, let's take a peek here. As far as today's volume went, we still have a pretty good gap there between the 11 and the 12/16 contracts. So, tomorrow's supposed to be the rollover day, but the rule, whatever contract month has the most amount of volume on it. So as of right now, if I had to guess, I would say we're probably going to be getting one of those low volume kind of sharing volume scenarios tomorrow, and then we'll see rollover on Wednesday, just in time for an inventory day on crude oil, right? Never a bad idea to have inventories and rollover on the same day. Might as well just rip the Band-Aid off right at the same time. So be aware of this tomorrow. We may, I couldn't tell you what tomorrow's going to bring here, obviously, as far as volume goes. It's always a bit of a moving target, but be aware, though, as of tomorrow, the first thing you want to do tomorrow, you're probably not going to get this in London, but, middle to late, late in the day in London tomorrow, early U.S. session, watch that volume, and either if you're trading the 11/16 contract, watch the volume of the 12/16 contract. Once that ticks higher, right, you'll know it's time to move to that 12/16. In all reality, though, tomorrow you can probably get away with trading either one of those contracts. You'll probably be okay. They'll probably be a little bit lower volume overall. All right? We have a full chapter in our beginner course here at School of Trade that talks specifically about contract rollover. If you're new to trading futures, our beginner course would be a great spot for you to start your career. We call it the beginner course because it's perfect for beginners who need to actually understand how the mechanics work of futures. So tomorrow is rollover on crude. So might as well start with crude then, shall we? I'm on the 11/16 contract tonight. Okay, so be aware, this is the 11/16. It'll all look the same, right, on the 12/16 contract, but again, like I said earlier, I'll be trading the front month that has the most amount of volume. So crude oil, we're clearly bullish in the short term and trying to push through this battle zone resistance just above that 50 level this evening. The market appears to be consolidating around this round number. Not a huge surprise, right? We talked about this last week. Whenever the $50 a barrel, before it was $100 a barrel, 25, 50, 75, 100, these are those areas that once they start to show up in the charts, we start getting a little bit of that back and forth around them. So we're clearly consolidating around that big round number. It's given swing traders a really difficult time right now to really get anything moving up or down. Really the big thing right now, though, is look below. We have a support trend line helping the buyers, and then look above. We have the battle zone working for the sellers. So we're kind of pinned here between resistance above in the battle zone, right, and support below in that rising trend line. Buyers want to be looking for a breakout pullback above that battle zone or a seller failure at support trend lines, right, down around that 49.70 area tomorrow. Sellers, on the other hand, need to beware that rising support trend line and look for a strong breakout pullback below that trend line, or wait for price to finish its rotation higher, right, and then look for the move back down to 50 middle to late morning tomorrow, right? Tough to tell when that will happen, right? One more thing to remember, tomorrow's the 18th, right? So we're watching out for rollover to that 12/16 contract. The very first thing I see when I look at this chart is we started off right around 50, we go up, right, we go down, and here we are right back at 50 again. I'll tell you right now, possibly the biggest clue here is the fact that these shenanigans happened this morning out of the blue, right? I mean, if you were with me in the trading this morning, you saw how the market opened at 9 o'clock, just bam, right, straight down. It was an obvious clue to be a seller at that point, right, short-term seller. But at the same time, though, look what happens. Really strong move in one direction. We talk about this all the time in the newsletter. What can you expect with a big move in one direction? At least a double, right? At least a double bottom, if not a measured move. And look what happens here. They just kind of conk out and run out of gas, if you pardon the pun, right? They just stalled out there, create a higher low, and chances are that higher low is what gave those sellers a little bit of nervousness, right? Because now they don't want to sell into that rising support. That self-fulfilling prophecy kicks in. Now we get this strong move up, and the buyers finish the move by closing higher. Buyers have control. I wouldn't have believed it, right, unless I saw the thing myself, right? Very strong move down. But what causes this market to stall going lower? That darn 50 again, right? Here we are back again at that 50. So we have to think this is going to be, trust me, I'm not saying I'm enjoying this right now, right? Because really anybody who has any experience as a day trader says this type of stuff is not fun. Because now it starts to creep into your psychology saying, well, can I buy those breaks higher? Can I do that, right? If we run it lower, can I sell this thing lower? And the answer is always going to be, in the short term, you need to trade the chart that you're seeing right now. Trust me, if it wants to go back to 50, it's not very probable. It'll happen sometimes, but it's rare for the market just to turn and immediately go in one direction. This morning we saw it happen right at 9 o'clock. The opening bell is always going to be a variable on a Monday morning, right? We talked about that this morning in real time with all of our students. So the reality is we're going to continue to trade through this, knowing that when we do see signs, we're going to use the moving average, we're going to use those channels to measure move. When we do see those signs, moving average is not holding, right? Strength in one direction, we can start putting that together, right? For going back to that 50. This was a really good example this morning. The buyers had, this is of course being a long-term time frame, the buyers had a really strong move going higher, a move that really should have continued. But then once we see this red candle, once we see this thing just bolt lower, I don't care what was happening before. It's a strong move lower. We should now be selling. And that's the type of attitude you want to have going forward. Don't let 50 creep into the back of your mind saying, what should I do? Follow what you're seeing in the chart, right? And if you don't know how to read what you're seeing in the chart, that should be a big clue. You need to get some education, whether it be from me, right, or somebody else you trust on the interwebs. But the reality is, though, is we can't let the fear of going back to 50 keep us up, because, like I said before, anybody with any experience knows that this is going to happen. It's going to round around this big round number for a little while, and we'll get some balance here, and then we'll start finding, right, some new value higher or lower, right, on the way to 75 or on the way to 25, right? So right now, be aware of this. We're going to trade the chart that we see. What are we seeing right now? Well, as we go higher here, the buyers have held a pullback, right? They've got a new higher high. The bulls have control. So whenever I see the buyers having control, that means we're going to be buying as long as we're not buying into resistance, right? We're at resistance right now, so we're going to be careful about that. And I can't even consider being a seller until the sellers take control. And sellers can take control with a real strong move like we saw earlier today, right? That'll get you control, right? Or not as strong, but then hold the pullback, right? So sellers can get in this thing holding the pullback, but they got to hold the pullback first. Okay, buyers have the benefit of the doubt. The sellers have the burden of proof. These are some of the terms we use, right, in our trade room with all the rest of our students here. All right, so what do the buyers want? What do the sellers want? Buyers have control. Now, again, this is going to be an easy area to get in trouble here trying to buy into this battle zone. Big, strong move down. You're going to have traders that are blindly selling into this area. This is one of those examples where I don't care if you're right. You're still going to be wrong if you mess with the group, right? This is all mass psychology, right? Law of large numbers. It's all crowd psychology. So we have to assume when we see a real strong move like that, there are going to be sellers, right, inside the battle zone. There are also going to be those crazies out there that think everything's going back to 50 right now. They're trying to fade it. The only way to beat them at their own game is to see a breakout pullback. And I'd be looking for the breakout pullback somewhere around the high of this wedge. It's going to have to be strong, right? What I don't want to see is a little tiny breakout pullback here. No, I want to see strength. I want to see these sellers who you know are going to be here all the way up to 50.16. I want those sellers to be screaming, uncle, 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 let me out, let me out, let me out. I want those sellers to be in pain. That's how strong this thing needs to go higher. Then that will bring this moving average up and allow me now to confidently be a buyer using support now with enough room on the way up to achieving, right, that move back up to that high. What you don't want to do is get caught trying to buy now into this high or buy inside the battle zone. You know how this always goes. Sometimes it breaks out, it pulls back, and it goes anyways. Boo-hoo, welcome to reality, welcome to being a small business owner. Sometimes you do everything right and you don't make any money on it. It's the way the world works. Don't let situations like that, though, don't suffer from survivorship bias. Don't let one successful example of a low probability trade tell you that will work next time, right? Because it's only about a 30% trade at that point. So we're looking for that strong breakout pullback, right? How strong? Strong enough to get that moving average up, right? So it comes above the high of that wedge, okay? It's going to take some effort. You know, it's going to have to be real strong. Because if it isn't, it's going to be buyers aren't going to want to buy into it. They're not going to want to buy into this if it's strength. Now, another thing you want to look for is, as a buyer, is as this price goes lower. Now, I should have been much better at this, updating this. So hold on, Joe, hold on. Okay, that's at 49.82. Okay, so 49.82 becomes another key level of support now. Now, here's where you really want to see this price dig in deep. Sellers are going to come down and try to sell this sucker. Remember, if you want to be a seller to take control right now, you got to go like this. You've got to hold that pullback. I'm not saying sellers can sell that pullback. I'm just saying sellers need to hold that pullback if they're going to have anything reliable going down to that low and to possibly get that double down. All right, so now anticipate now we do pull back. Right? We do pull